Welcome to the story. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and support me. At the edge of the known universe, where the vast expanse of the cosmos stretches into an endless void, a team of human explorers ventured into the unknown. The sector they had entered was remote, desolate, and far beyond the reach of any human colony. It was a place where the stars seemed fewer, where light itself hesitated to travel. Yet, in this emptiness, they discovered something extraordinary, a structure, ancient and enigmatic, floating silently in the abyss. The structure was unlike anything humanity had ever encountered. It was colossal, with smooth, dark surfaces that absorbed light rather than reflected it. The design was alien, almost otherworldly, with intricate patterns and symbols etched into the surface, hinting at a civilization far more advanced than anything Earth had ever seen. The explorers, led by Dr. Emily Hartman, a renowned physicist with a specialty in quantum mechanics, and Colonel Jack Mason, a hardened military strategist, knew they had stumbled upon something monumental. Inside the structure, they found a device, small, unassuming, but radiating an energy that defied understanding. Dr. Hartman was the first to approach it, her scientific curiosity piqued by the readings on her equipment. The device was not just a relic of an ancient civilization, it was something far more powerful. It had the potential to control time itself. Days turned into weeks as Dr. Hartman and her team studied the device, trying to unlock its secrets. The more they learned, the more they realized the device's true potential. It wasn't just a tool for observing time, it could manipulate it. The implications were staggering. Whoever controlled this device would hold the power to alter the course of history, to change the very fabric of reality. It was the ultimate weapon, but their discovery did not go unnoticed. Unbeknownst to them, the activation of the device sent a signal across the universe, a beacon that caught the attention of powerful alien civilizations. These were not benevolent beings, they were ancient, warlike, and driven by a thirst for power. The Vantari, an enigmatic species known for their advanced technology and cryptic motives, saw the device as a means to transcend their physical forms and achieve immortality. The Drakern, a ruthless race of conquerors, viewed it as the ultimate weapon to dominate the galaxy. And the Zenkeri, a once great civilization on the brink of extinction, believed the device could save their dying star system. As the alien fleets converged on the edge of the universe, humanity found itself in the crosshairs of an interstellar war. The Earth Federation, the governing body of humanity's interstellar colonies, declared a state of emergency. Panic spread across the colonies as the threat of invasion became imminent. Colonel Mason was tasked with fortifying the defenses, knowing full well that humanity's technology was no match for the advanced weaponry of the alien armadas. The tension within the human ranks was palpable. Soldiers prepared for battle, knowing that the odds were against them. Dr. Hartman, on the other hand, continued her work with a sense of urgency, aware that the key to their survival lay within the device. But time was running out, and the alien fleets were closing in. The first encounter was devastating. The alien ships arrived in waves, their sleek, angular designs cutting through the darkness of space like knives. They unleashed a barrage of energy weapons that tore through the human defenses. The Earth Federation's fleet, despite their best efforts, was overwhelmed. Ships were destroyed, entire battalions were lost, and hope began to fade. Dr. Hartman, monitoring the battle from the command center, knew that conventional warfare was futile. She turned to Colonel Mason, her voice calm but resolute. "We have to use the device," she said, her eyes fixed on the readings. "It's our only chance." Mason hesitated. The idea of weaponizing the device was risky, unprecedented. But as he looked at the destruction unfolding before him, he knew there was no other option. "Do it," he ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. The process of turning the device into a weapon was complex and fraught with danger. Dr. Hartman and her team worked around the clock, recalibrating the device to manipulate time on a massive scale. The plan was to create a temporal vortex, a tear in the fabric of time that would allow human forces to move through time itself. It was a desperate gamble, but one they had to take. When the device was finally activated, the effect was immediate. The battlefield transformed into a chaotic vortex where past, present, and future collided. Time itself seemed to shatter as human ships disappeared and reappeared, evading enemy fire by slipping through time. Soldiers found themselves fighting alongside their past or future selves, their perceptions of time distorted by the device's power. Colonel Mason led the charge, his ship moving through the folds of time with precision. He coordinated attacks from different points in time, using the temporal advantage to outmaneuver the alien forces. The Vantari, Drakern, and Zenkeri were caught off guard, their superior technology rendered useless in the face of humanity's newfound power. The tide of the battle began to turn, but the use of the device came at a cost. The temporal distortions created by the vortex began to take their toll on the human forces. Soldiers reported strange anomalies, memories that didn't belong to them, injuries that appeared and disappeared, and encounters with versions of themselves from different timelines. The strain on their minds and bodies was immense, and the line between reality and illusion began to blur. Dr. Hartman, witnessing the effects firsthand, realized the dangers of their actions. The device was too powerful, too unpredictable. The longer they used it, the greater the risk of tearing the fabric of time beyond repair. She knew they had to stop, but with the alien forces still pressing their attack, there was no turning back. The alien civilizations, desperate to seize the device, began to devise countermeasures. The Vantari attempted to disrupt the time folds by sending waves of energy pulses designed to destabilize the vortex. The Drakern intensified their assault, using their most advanced weapons to breach the human defenses. And the Zenkeri, realizing their only chance lay in diplomacy, sent emissaries to negotiate a truce, offering to share the device's power in exchange for peace. But Colonel Mason and Dr. Hartman knew that the device could not be allowed to fall into alien hands. The power to control time was too great, too dangerous. It had to be sealed away, forever. As the alien forces closed in, they devised a final, desperate plan. Colonel Mason would lead a suicide mission to plant a temporal disruptor inside the device, triggering a feedback loop that would seal it within a time loop, rendering it inaccessible to anyone. Meanwhile, Dr. Hartman would coordinate a last stand, using the remnants of the human fleet to buy Mason the time he needed. The final battle was fierce, a cacophony of destruction and chaos. Mason's team infiltrated the structure, fighting their way through alien soldiers and automated defenses. The closer they got to the device, the more intense the temporal distortions became. Time itself seemed to rebel, warping and twisting in unpredictable ways. Mason, determined and focused, led his team to the heart of the structure. As they reached the device, the distortions became almost unbearable. Mason's vision blurred, his mind filled with memories of battles that hadn't yet happened, of comrades who were both alive and dead. But he pushed forward, knowing that the fate of the universe rested on their success. With the disruptor in place, Mason initiated the sequence. The device began to glow, its energy building to a crescendo. The temporal feedback loop started to form, pulling the device, and everything around it, into a closed time loop. Mason's team, realizing they would be trapped forever, made their peace with their fate. They had saved humanity, but at the cost of their lives. Outside the structure, Dr. Hartman watched as the alien forces faltered. The Vantari ships flickered and disappeared, the Drakern weapon systems failed, and the Zenkari emissaries fell silent. The time loop was complete, and the device was gone, sealed away, beyond the reach of any civilization. The aftermath of the battle was somber. The human forces, battered and broken, retreated from the edge of the universe. The victory was theirs, but it came at a tremendous cost. Thousands of lives were lost, and the device, now locked in an eternal loop, remained a ghostly presence, a reminder of the dangers of tampering with time. Dr. Hartman, back on Earth, reflected on the events that had unfolded. They had saved the universe, but at what price? The power to control time was too great for any being to wield. It was a power that could never be trusted in the hands of any civilization, no matter how advanced. As she looked out at the stars, she knew that humanity had learned a valuable lesson. They had faced the ultimate challenge and emerged victorious, but they would never forget the sacrifices made along the way. The device, sealed away in the folds of time, was both a victory and a warning, a testament to the thin line between creation and destruction. And so, humanity continued to explore the universe, stronger and more united than ever before. But they did so with a newfound respect for the forces they had encountered. They knew that some powers were not meant to be controlled, that some secrets were best left buried in the depths of time. The ultimate battle was over, but its legacy would endure, a story passed down through generations, a story of courage, sacrifice, and the timeless struggle between power and responsibility. The stars shimmered faintly in the vast, endless void, a stark contrast to the tumultuous events that had just transpired at the edge of the universe. The once chaotic battlefield now lay in eerie silence, the remnants of alien fleets drifting lifelessly through the void, testament to the ferocity of the conflict that had just concluded. Humanity had emerged victorious, but the cost was evident, and the weight of their actions pressed heavily on the survivors. Dr. Emily Hartman stood alone in the observation deck of the Federation's flagship, her gaze distant as she stared into the expanse of space. The silence was deafening, a stark contrast to the cacophony of battle that still echoed in her mind. The temporal distortions had ceased, the time loop had been sealed, and the device, the object that had sparked this interstellar conflict, was now lost to them, locked away in a never-ending cycle of time. But the victory, as much as it was celebrated across the human colonies, felt hollow to her. The power they had wielded, the devastation they had unleashed, it was too much for any one civilization to control. The risks, the sacrifices, the lives lost, it was a heavy burden to bear. And the device, though sealed away, would forever be a reminder of the thin line they had walked, between survival and annihilation. The door to the observation deck slid open, and Colonel Jack Mason stepped inside, his presence a comforting but somber one. He had led the final assault, had been the one to give the order to activate the disruptor that had sealed the device away. He, too, bore the weight of their actions, but his resolve remained unshaken. Emily, Mason's voice broke the silence, his tone calm yet filled with an unspoken understanding. The Federation Council has convened. They want a full report on the battle and the status of the device. Hartman nodded, tearing her gaze away from the stars. "I'll prepare the data," she replied, her voice carrying a note of exhaustion. "But what do we tell them? The truth? That we've meddled with forces beyond our understanding? That we've tampered with time itself?" Mason's expression hardened slightly. "We tell them what they need to know, that the device is sealed, beyond anyone's reach. That humanity is safe, for now. The details, we'll handle those when the time comes." There was a moment of silence between them, a shared understanding of the magnitude of what they had done. They had played with the fabric of time, had wielded a power that could reshape the universe. But in the end, they had done what was necessary to survive. Hartman took a deep breath, trying to shake off the weariness that clung to her. Jack, do you think we'll ever truly be free of this? The knowledge of what we've done, of what we were capable of. Mason's eyes softened, and he stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. No, he said simply. We'll never forget. But we'll carry on. We have to. For the sake of those who didn't make it, for the future of humanity. The words resonated with Hartman, offering a sliver of comfort. They had fought to protect their people, to ensure that humanity would continue to exist, to explore the stars. But the memories of what they had unleashed, what they had witnessed in the folds of time, would never leave them. The Federation Council was a somber affair. The gathered officials, each representing one of humanity's far-flung colonies, listened intently as Hartman and Mason delivered their report. The details of the battle were laid out, the tactics employed, the desperate final assault on the alien fleets. But when it came to the device, the explanation was brief and carefully worded. The temporal device is no longer a threat, Hartman stated, her voice measured and calm. It has been sealed within a time loop, inaccessible to any civilization. The risk of it being used as a weapon, by us or anyone else, has been eliminated. There were murmurs among the council members, expressions of relief mixed with concern. The device had been a double-edged sword, its power undeniable, but the potential for disaster immense. The fact that it was now out of reach was reassuring, but the knowledge that such a thing had existed at all was unsettling. What of the alien civilizations? One of the counselors asked, his tone sharp. Will they return? Will they seek revenge for their defeat? Mason answered, his voice steady and authoritative. The Vantari, Drakern, and Zenkeri have suffered significant losses. Their fleets are in disarray, and without the device to pursue, they lack the motivation to continue their assault. For now, humanity is safe. The counselors seemed to accept this, though the tension in the room remained palpable. The threat had been averted, but the scars of the battle, both physical and psychological, would take time to heal. As the council meeting concluded, Hartman and Mason were left alone once more, the weight of their responsibilities settling heavily upon them. They had done their duty, had protected their people, but the future remained uncertain. Emily, Mason said quietly as they left the council chamber, we need to focus on rebuilding. On making sure something like this never happens again. Hartman nodded, though her thoughts were still tangled with the events of the past days. Yes, she agreed, but we also need to remember. To ensure that the knowledge of what we've done, what we've discovered, isn't lost. It's too important, too dangerous to ignore. Mason agreed, though his expression remained grim. We'll document everything, secure it where it can't be easily accessed. But we have to be careful. This kind of power, it's not something that should be tampered with lightly. They walked in silence for a time, the gravity of their conversation hanging in the air. The battle had been won, but the cost was high, and the implications of their actions were still unraveling. Back aboard the Federation's flagship, Hartman returned to her lab, the place where she had first studied the device, where she had first glimpsed the potential to control time. The lab was quiet now, the equipment powered down, the data files carefully archived. But the memories of those frantic, desperate hours lingered, a reminder of the razor's edge they had walked. She sat down at her workstation, pulling up the files she had been compiling, notes on the device, the theories she had developed, the calculations that had led to its weaponization. It was all there, neatly organized, a record of humanity's brush with the impossible. As she reviewed the data, she couldn't help but think about the what-ifs. What if they had never found the device? What if the aliens had reached it first? What if they had lost the battle? The possibilities were endless, each one more terrifying than the last, but they hadn't lost. They had survived, and they had done so by using the very thing that had threatened to destroy them. It was a paradox, one that she would grapple with for the rest of her life. The door to the lab slid open, and Mason stepped inside, his presence a grounding force in the midst of her turbulent thoughts. "How are you holding up?" he asked, his voice gentle. Hartman looked up, meeting his gaze. "I'm processing," she admitted. "It's going to take time." Mason nodded, understanding in his eyes. "We all are. But we'll get through this. Together." The words were simple, but they carried a weight of truth. They had faced the unthinkable and come out the other side. The scars would remain, but they would heal. And as long as they had each other, they would find a way to move forward. As they stood there, in the quiet of the lab, the enormity of what they had accomplished began to sink in. They had protected their people, had ensured the survival of humanity in the face of an existential threat. It was a victory, though not one without its costs. Hartman took a deep breath, feeling a sense of resolve settle over her. They had a long road ahead of them, but they would walk it together. And they would ensure that the lessons they had learned were not forgotten. As the days turned into weeks, the process of rebuilding began. The human colonies, though shaken by the events, rallied together in a show of unity and strength. The remnants of the alien fleets were scattered across the cosmos, no longer a direct threat, but their presence was a reminder of the dangers that still lurked in the universe. Hartman and Mason continued their work, overseeing the recovery efforts, ensuring that the knowledge of the device was secured and hidden away. They knew that the future was uncertain, that the universe was vast and filled with unknowns. But they also knew that humanity had faced its greatest challenge and had emerged stronger for it, and as they looked to the stars, they carried with them the memory of the ultimate battle, a battle that had tested their limits, had pushed them to the brink, but had ultimately shown them the strength of the human spirit. The end of the story was not a conclusion, but a beginning, a new chapter in the ongoing saga of humanity's journey through the stars. They would continue to explore, to discover, to grow. But they would do so with a newfound respect for the forces that shaped the universe, and a solemn understanding of the responsibilities that came with wielding such power. And as they ventured into the unknown, they carried with them the lessons of the past, the bonds forged in the fires of battle, and the knowledge that, no matter the odds, humanity would endure.